Hi, everyone. Welcome to the podcast, High Risk for Heartbreak. I am your host, Christina, and I'm so glad you decided to join me today. For those of you who are new here, I pray you find value in at least one thing I say today. And to my old and faithful returning crew, you know just how much I appreciate you. So, without further ado, let's jump into it. Have you ever had the thought that you are hard to love? Where does that thought even come from? And why is it attaching itself to your story? Any heartbreak is tough, of course, as we know. The loss of a friendship, the changing of a professional relationship or a job loss, delay maybe within your career, upset from your child's behavior, or even a romantic breach. Any kind, all kinds of heartbreak are tough. It's tough on all of the major areas of life because it causes us to kind of shift our perspective of what once was that is no more. And it brings about this questioning that I don't think is out of character for a season of heartbreak at all. But why does our story shift from feeling secure about ourselves to the lack of security and a lack of knowing who we are and what we deserve? Now, I'm very slow to use the word deserve because there's a lot of things that we as humans deserve because of our humanness, of course, that God so mercifully intercepts every day. There are a lot of things that we deserve that we do not get. Thank God. However, speaking from a more mental and emotional perspective, maybe from a more human perspective, a shift in security and in a knowing of who we are and what we didn't deserve happens after a heartbreak. And you might have found yourself at some point in life saying, I don't deserve this, or what did I do to deserve this? I know I've asked myself those questions before. These statements and questions that arise after your heart security is breached, for whatever reason and whatever the matter, will start making it tough to still believe that love is possible here. I would say in the more extreme examples like relational losses, you see this most magnified. However, a professional loss even might cause questions of your worth or your identity, or if anyone else sees you. The very foundation that your ideas, your expectations, and your daily actions within those relationships that you had is shaken from heartbreak and from heart breach. And that brings you to this desolate and very lonely place of questioning your value and your ability to be loved, and I'm going to say loveable. Today, I want to speak about this question. Am I lovable? So, let's relate. We are born looking like our parents, but we die looking like our decisions. This is often used, this quote, and it speaks about the responsibility that every able-minded and able-bodied human has, that we've been given in this life. We are born into a world that has so much possibility, so much potential, and who we are, who we become, is contingent upon many factors like your environment, your guardian figures when you were younger, your social connectivity, and more. However, there are some things that regardless of your station in life and what you were able to achieve, some things you just can't evade. And many of those things, well, I'm not going to say many, I'm just going to say, and the one most important thing that I'm going to speak about today is heartbreak of any magnitude. Now, that's what this podcast is about, so that's why I'm always talking about it. We cannot choose who won't hurt us. We can try, we can discern, we can try to mitigate, we can shy away, but seldom do we meet and relate to someone who won't hurt us in some capacity. As I have gotten older, I have come to understand how unfair it is to try to protect my need to be completely and utterly safe from others' hiccups. And being that way assumes perfection should come from others. And that lacks mercy, of course. It also pedestals me as this sort of untouchable who could do no wrong, which is obviously not true because in someone's life, I'm the heartbreak. However, that doesn't stop me from believing that every person I am in a deep relationship with will treat me well, but more importantly, love me well. I genuinely believe that each person that I allow into my life will treat me well, having the capacity to mistreat me, but not the propensity. And of course, time tells that. And, I don't generally build deep relationships with people that I don't trust. There's levels to the relationships. I think I might have talked about this book before. This is an aside. I have it over here, but I'm not going to go grab it. Relational Intelligence by Dr. Darius Daniels. Really great book to read on how to position people in your life. And it's not really about a hierarchy. It's more or less about boundaries and protection and defining the people that should be intimately close to you, the people who should be mediumly close, and the people who should be acquaintancely close. That's not a word, but we'll go with it. Either way, relationships of any kind will land you in situations where heartbreak is possible, and in many ways, it's inevitable. So how does your heart cope with that heartbreak? Now, we're not talking about healing today. I have so many episodes on healing. Please look back in the podcast Rolodex, okay? How do you recover when heartbreak comes after heartbreak? And it seems that you are this landing ground for relational upset. One thing I went through after a couple of major heartbreaks in my life is wondering if I'm even fit to be loved. I was literally thinking, am I the lovable type, or is there just something about me that causes people to go away? And that was more specific to romantic relationships, though in the more recent years, I've actually experienced this on a friendship level as well. And the truth still remains, it causes me to question if I am good ground for good love. Every relationship won't last always, and really there is only one that will. But I do think God intends for us to work through our things with others by way of forgiveness, extending grace, and mercy. And the word says to love your neighbor as yourself, and it also says to love your enemies. Now, these things seem impossible, and in some instances, especially without his help. But what makes a person good ground for good love? Let's explore quickly 3 ways that you will know that you are good ground for good love, or in other words, lovable. Point number 1, you forgive. You give grace. And you exercise mercy to everyone. Now, these traits honestly set the bar very high as the number 1 point. And generally, I work my way backwards. I go 3, 2, 1, but we'll go 1, 2, 3 today. This sets the bar very high for love, forgiveness, mercy showing, and grace. Then Peter came to him and said, Lord, how oft shall my brother sin against me and I forgive him? Till 7 times? Now, hold on now. I'm not even making it to what Jesus answered to Peter when he asked this. But of course, because he literally stuns us with what he says. But the number of how oft we should forgive those, particularly those who are close to us, because it says brother, right? Those who are close to us after they have hurt us in some type of way, Peter says 7 times. And I want you to think about all of the people that you know that you love and that you have loved, and ask yourself, how many times were you forgiving them, especially with repeat offenses in the same way? 7 times would really be pushing it for many of us out here. And unfortunately, these days, people opt to suffer not, okay? But they'd rather just dispose of people versus forgiving for 7 times, okay? People dispose of people on the first offense. They just don't have it anymore. And if you know the scripture, Jesus goes on to say 70 times 7. Now, you may have forgiven 7 times someone, but what about 70 times 7? And really, Jesus is just saying forgiving continuously and innumerably. We are to forgive those who hurt us continuously, innumerably. The bar is very high because love is not this colloquialism to just be thrown around to and fro. It really is the highest and best expression of God's affection, connection, and protection for us and through us. So the ability to forgive, to show mercy, and show grace is going to add longevity to your love. And the same goes for longevity to your relationships, right? Grace is receiving the things that you don't deserve. And mercy is not receiving what you do deserve. How often have you done that in your relationships? Imagine if we exhibited those traits in relationships that we have with others, close, medium close, far. Extending forgiveness, grace, and mercy when the other person doesn't deserve it. How often? 70 times 7? These 3 things are going to require a lot of ego death, okay? Point number 2, the second way you know you are good ground for good love is that you are a copycat. You are using God's example of love to replicate love. Replicate literally means to copy in a scientific way. It doesn't mean to change it just a little bit, to add a little sauce to it. Replicate is duplicate. It's the same. There are far too many definitions for love these days when God gave us a very clear and very concise definition of what love is and what love does. Replication is not innovation. We cannot improve upon a prototype, yet we find ourselves wanting to add ingredients to a recipe that has already been mastered. And then we wonder why our relationships are full of strife, failing, and are unfulfilling. We wonder why love dies. And we create reasonings to appease what really cannot be appeased deeply within. I believe we have a very intrinsic knowing that love, true love, does not die. Yet we will convince ourselves otherwise. I am excited to explore love as we have made it versus what God has meant it to be. And I will get to that a little more in the Leah series that is coming up. You guys, I'm still working on it. I have read through this story so many times, and every day I'm like I can't believe it. I'm gonna have to do a Rachel series after Leah, and then I'm gonna have to do a Jacob after, because honey, there was a lot going on. Okay. We're gonna start with Leah first, so I don't want to get too ambitious. But I'm very excited to bring this series to you because we are going to talk about love, unrequited love, and really what we've made love out to be that maybe God did not intend for it to be. I want to say God's love is the only thing that does not require performance for it to be obtained. Many are out here auditioning, performing, and doing stunts for love. And I can say that because I'm a performer. I audition. I am an actress and I do stunts. I know what it's like to audition for love. I know what it's like to run myself ragged trying to prove my value and my worth for love. I know what it's like to try to keep up the ruse for love. I know what it's like to bend over backwards, breaking myself, throwing myself around for love. But God's love from Him to us does not require any tricks. For others, there seems to be this earning that must happen. We have to earn trust. We have to earn favor. We have to earn likes. We have to earn from people. And the love of God is not earned. It just is. It's a renewable resource, inexhaustible. Some describe it as unconditional. Others note God's love as the only true love. Nonetheless, he teaches us how to love like him. And this is the one time it's great to be a copycat, but it takes a humble and faithful heart to learn to love like him. While love is an action, it's not just doing without character, without faithful character to inform the action. We often think of it as a feeling, right? But attachment is a feeling. It grows feelings. Expectation creates feelings. Dreaming cultivates feelings. But love is the action of a character faithfully committed. We see this exemplified in the widow who gave her last. Her heart was postured in faith. That's why she gave her last, even though she was impoverished. Because of that, we knew she was rich in spirit. And love will require your spirit to be rich with faith, humility, with long suffering, with kindness, with patience, with selflessness, honor, slowness to anger, not keeping records, being able to be forgetful. Love is protective. It's trusting. It's hopeful. It perseveres. And what seems to really trip me up every time is love never fails. Never is a very strong word. Good ground for good love requires you to replicate God by being unfailing in your love towards others. If you aren't picking up on what I'm getting at yet, I will say it in another way on the next point, okay? Point number 3. Sorry, my allergies are trying to get me, you guys. I'm almost making it through, but I'm getting more and more stuffed as I talk. Being love makes you good ground for good love. There is this saying that you have to become the change that you want to see in the world. If you are love, love will find you. It cannot help but to find you. However, just because you are love doesn't mean you won't attract others whose intentions is not necessarily to love you, but to acquire or maybe possess the very thing that they see in you. And of course, they won't know how to treat it because they aren't love. Genuine love attracts all types, all kinds. It's like a moth to a flame. I've asked my therapist this many times before, how come I draw certain types of people? And he said, Christina, because they see it. They see what they want to acquire on you. It's on you. It's in you. It vibrates out of you. It radiates out of you. They cannot help but be drawn. Broken people are drawn to healers. I'm not saying I'm a healer. That's what he said. Okay. The Bible says love conquers all, bearing all things, believing all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. It takes a relationship with God to know how to love anyone like that, including yourself. I have come to the conclusion that I have only met love, true love, a few times in my life. That's through my immediate family and through a few friendships. And that's it. Everyone else was seasons of possession and shared parallel affection. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, in hindsight, I recognize what it wasn't, okay? As soon as we met a hiccup in those relationships that are now gone, in those loves that are now gone, or we were called to endure what seemed like too long of a time or too deep of a issue, then came the distance and we were no longer watering our relationship. So naturally, death of the relationship followed. Being love makes you good ground, though, for good love. But it doesn't exempt you from meeting those who don't know how to cultivate good ground when they have it. It's like a landowner versus a land cultivator. One is called to possess the land, to possess it, to own it. And the other is called to address the land, to caress it, to grow it. They both have their respective place, but ask yourself, when it comes to love and the way that you want to be loved, do you want to be possessed or do you want to be cultivated? Cultivation knows how to honor the resources that are there and make manifest what has been missing. This is a love that speaks to your weaknesses, calling out what has atrophied inside of you, calling it out to the forefront like God did Gideon, recognizing him as a mighty man of valor before he could even see himself as one. A land cultivator knows how to work around what is already rooted, not disturbing what's working, rather making highest and best use of the surrounding soil because they know you are going to grow. And they want you to have the best opportunity to do so without disturbing your roots and forcing you to grow in their time. A love cultivator, they're patient for growth, kind in touch, handling the mental and the emotional load that you have gently. They're observant. They're receptive. They're flexible. They aren't counting your setbacks because they know things have to die off for maximum growth. So love honors the process and it's hopeful in it. This is who you have to become. It sounds nice to want to desire to have someone like that come into your life, but you have to become a love cultivator. You have to become one who knows what to do with hard and rocky ground, which is a lot of people's hearts these days after heartbreak, after possession without cultivation. And this may be your heart after a breach in a relationship. Maybe I'm talking about you on one of these ends. The onus is on you, not to wait for someone to come on and cultivate, because they may not even have the activated capacity to care for a hard and rocky heart. So take heart to love God and yourself first. Take heart to break up the soil around your good roots, because there are good things that you bring to the table. Please never forget that God made you to root down and fruit. Even the Israelites were called by God to root and fruit, to keep building and keep living and loving and producing in the midst of slavery. Create your resilience in love after heartbreak. Create and cultivate it within you, and I promise your ground will be fertile. I believe I have said enough. We've definitely gone over 20 minutes. Remember to forgive, to show grace, and to have mercy. Remember to replicate the renewable resource of God's love and become the cultivator that you want to see relationally. You reap what you sow. Let us not grow weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap harvest if we faint not. Love yourself first, so you can then go and love your neighbor. Until next time.